Then we cut to a tiny, colorful striped worm in a Petri dish. This is not just any worm, it's a ribbon worm living at the bottom of the ocean. 7 million Americans will forget who they are, who their children are, and even their own face in the mirror. The thing that might stop this devastating disease is found in the depths of the sea. This sets the stage for a story that is both personal and shocking, drawing viewers in with a sense of urgency and mystery. Alzheimer is not just a distant problem, it's a crisis affecting millions of families across the United States. Right now, 7.4 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, more than the population of Indiana or Arizona. 1 in 9 people over 65 has it, and for those who reach 85, 1 in 3. It kills more Americans than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. The cost, $409 billion every year just for care. These numbers slam onto the screen, making the scale of the problem impossible to ignore. But hear what nobody in mainstream medicine is talking about. The most promising lead didn't come from a lab, but from a venomous worm at the bottom of the sea. Not a lab-designed molecule, not a billion-dollar pharmaceutical compound. A worm, about as long as your finger, living in the ocean, stabbing its prey with a tiny dagger and injecting them with a toxin that does something remarkable to the human brain. Before this video is over, you'll see exactly how that toxin works, and why one version has already been tested in human clinical trials for both Alzheimer's and schizophrenia. But first, we need to go somewhere unexpected, the deep ocean. Understand why this worm matters. You need to grasp one of the most important and least discussed ideas in all of science. The ocean is not just a place where fish live, it's the greatest untapped pharmaceutical library in human history. We are only beginning to open it. Let's look at 3 things already in your medicine cabinet or hospital that came from the ocean. First, the cone snail, whose venom led to a painkiller 1,000 times stronger than morphine, but without addiction. Second, a Caribbean sea sponge whose compounds became chemotherapy drugs for leukemia and lymphoma. Third, the horseshoe crab, whose blue blood is used to test every vaccine and injectable medicine for bacterial contamination. These examples show that the ocean has already given us life-saving medicines, and we've barely scratched the surface. Somewhere in the tropical Pacific, a cone snail hunts. It's slow, unable to chase, but armed with a tiny harpoon loaded with complex venom. Scientists found a peptide in this venom that blocks pain signals in the human nervous system, not by numbing, but by targeting a specific calcium channel. This became ziconotide, FDA approved in 2004, and is used for chronic pain in patients with spinal cord injuries. It's 1,000 times stronger than morphine and non-addictive. From a snail most people would step on at the beach, this medicine now helps those for whom nothing else works. In the 1950s, a marine biologist collected a sea sponge from the Caribbean. It looked unremarkable, but inside were compounds called spungathimidine and spungaridine. These were chemically modified and became cytarabine, a chemotherapy drug now standard for certain leukemias and lymphomas. A sponge, so simple it has no brain or organs, carried a molecule that has saved thousands of lives. This story shows how even the most basic ocean creatures can hold secrets that change medicine. In pharmaceutical manufacturing plants across America, workers draw blood from horseshoe crabs. Their blood is bright blue, containing copper instead of iron, and clots instantly in the presence of bacterial toxins. This property is used to test every injectable medicine and vaccine for contamination. Every IV bag, flu shot, COVID vaccine, and antibiotic drip passes the horseshoe crab test before reaching humans. You've almost certainly had a medication cleared safe by crab blood and never knew. The ocean has already given us so much, and we're just beginning to explore its potential. Now let's meet the Nemertean ribbon worm. Picture the deep ocean floor, a small crustacean moving through the sediment, unaware of the danger nearby. Coiled in the silt is a ribbon worm, its body thin and striped with vivid orange and black, a warning to predators. The worm fires its proboscis, a tube that can extend the worm's entire body length, tipped with a tiny dagger. It punctures the crustacean's shell and injects venom, paralyzing its prey within seconds. Ribbon worms are ancient predators, some exceeding 50 meters in length, and they carry a cocktail of toxins scientists are only now beginning to understand. Ribbon worms, or Nemerteans, have been on Earth for over 500 million years, predating dinosaurs and most major animal groups. There are nearly 1,300 known species, many living in the deep ocean. Their bodies and proboscises contain toxins, the most significant of which is anabasine. Anabasine is potentially one of the most medically important molecules ever pulled from the ocean floor. Most people have never heard of it, but it could change the way we treat Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases. Understand why the ribbon worm's toxin matters. We need to look at what happens in an Alzheimer's brain. In a healthy brain, neurons communicate through chemical signals crossing synapses. One key receptor is the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, involved in memory, learning, and controlling inflammation. In Alzheimer's, plaques of amyloid beta build up, blocking these receptors and escalating inflammation. When the alpha-7 receptor is stimulated, it reduces inflammation and protects neurons. But in Alzheimer's, these receptors are shut down, turning off the brain's repair system. Here, where the ribbon worm comes in. Anabasine, the toxin produced by Nemertean worms, is a powerful stimulator of nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, including the alpha-7 receptor. Researchers at the University of Florida spent years studying it, modifying its structure to make it more selective and potent. The result was a synthetic compound called DMXBA, also known as GTS-21. GTS-21, derived from ribbon worm toxin, has entered clinical trials for both Alzheimer's and schizophrenia. It selectively activates the alpha-7 receptor, improving memory and reducing inflammation in animal studies. GTS-21 was tested in human clinical trials to evaluate its effects on cognition. It improved memory performance in healthy subjects and moved into trials for schizophrenia, another condition linked to alpha-7 receptor dysfunction. Early results were encouraging, but this is not a cure yet. Clinical trials for neurological diseases take years, sometimes decades. The drug development pipeline is long and expensive, often ending in failure. But the science is real. The alpha-7 receptor's role in Alzheimer's and schizophrenia is proven, and the worm toxin helped unlock this understanding. 2025, researchers conducted expeditions off East Timor as part of the largest coordinated ocean discovery effort in history. They found new ribbon worm species, not previously described, with vivid warning colorations and toxins that have not yet been fully analyzed. These worms belong to the same group as those whose anabasine led to GTS-21 research. They may carry related compounds or entirely new ones. We don't know yet because we just found them. This discovery grounds the story in recent news and makes it urgent. GTS-21 came from one worm species, collected in one location. Now, we've found new ribbon worm species in ocean areas barely explored. Each could carry a molecular variant that's more effective, more selective, and more able to cross the blood-brain barrier. Think of the ocean as a library with 1,000,000 books, but we've only looked in a single room. We found anabasine in one room, leading to a promising drug candidate. Now, thousands more rooms are filled with unknown species and compounds. The question is whether we'll look before these ecosystems are disrupted. The waters off East Timor are home to vibrant coral reefs and diverse marine life, including ribbon worms with vivid blues and oranges. Scientists at the University of Florida spent years with a single compound from a single species. Imagine what a dedicated program searching through hundreds of new Nemertean species might find. With resources to explore deep waters near Japan, unexplored seamounts, and Pacific trenches, we could systematically screen every new species for bioactive compounds. The ocean holds answers, but we must be willing to search. Let's make this personal. If you're watching in America, there's a real chance someone in your family has Alzheimer's or will. 1 in 9 Americans over 65 has Alzheimer's, 1 in 3 over 85, and nearly 2 in 3 patients are women. 11.5 million Americans provide unpaid care for loved ones with Alzheimer's, cooking meals, reminding them who they are, and sitting with them through sleepless nights. 60% of caregivers report high stress, and 22% leave their jobs. This disease takes pieces of everyone around the patient. Costs are staggering, $409 billion in 2026, heading toward $1 trillion by 2050. To put that in perspective, NASA's annual budget is about $25 billion. We could fund NASA 16 times over with what Alzheimer's costs America each year. Unlike cardiovascular disease, which saw mortality rates fall by 7% since 2000, Alzheimer's mortality has increased by 145%. Every dollar invested in ocean research is an investment in the possibility that somewhere in the dark water is a molecule with your family member's name on it. The cone snail toxin was found by a marine biologist studying a beautiful, dangerous shell. The sponge compound fighting leukemia was discovered by a scientist picking up a lump from the Caribbean seafloor. The ribbon worm's anabasine was found by researchers studying marine worms most people have never heard of. None of these were found by billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies, but by curious scientists exploring the ocean. The ocean is 98% of Earth's living space, and we've observed less than a fraction of 1%. The math on what we might find is staggering. We started with a question, 7 million Americans forgetting, and a worm at the bottom of the sea. The ribbon worm, or Nemertean, carries in its venom a molecule called anabasine. Anabasine targets the alpha-7 nicotinic acetylcholine receptor in the human brain, connected to memory, cognition, and inflammation. Scientists built a drug around it, GTS-21, also called DMXBA, which has shown promise in improving memory and reducing brain inflammation, entering clinical trials for Alzheimer's and schizophrenia. In 2025, new ribbon worm species were found in barely explored waters, possibly carrying even more powerful molecular variants. Worm doesn't know it's carrying something valuable. It's simply surviving in the dark at the bottom of the sea, doing what its ancestors have done for 500 million years. In evolving this precise chemical weapon, it accidentally handed us a key that might open one of the most important locks in modern medicine. This humble creature, living in water so deep and dark that no sunlight has ever reached it, could hold the answer to Alzheimer's. The only way to find out is to keep exploring. The ocean doesn't give anything up easily. You have to go looking, go deep, and be willing to sit with uncertainty, darkness, and creatures you've never seen. But every time we've explored with curiosity and patience, the ocean has given us something extraordinary. The cure for Alzheimer may not come from a sleek pharmaceutical lab, but from a striped worm barely bigger than your finger, living in the depths. The only way to find out is to keep exploring. If you found this valuable, if you have a family member with Alzheimer, or believe the ocean deserves more attention, share this video. Not for numbers, but for the conversation. The more people understand what's out there in the ocean, the more we value, protect, and fund the science that explores it. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper. Every week, we cover stories from the frontier of science, discoveries that rarely make the news but change how we understand life on this planet. See you in the deep.